All right, we're live.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Sneakers and Cleats, episode 91. Glad to be back. We've kind of went on a little mini break here, a little bit. Vacation was good for y'all, right?
Yes, vacation was good. Eclipse was good. I think that's why that wiped us out on Monday, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
We were just
Vacation was good. Eclipse was non-existent.
Yes, Eclipse. I mean, it was still pretty cool that it got super dark.
Yeah.
That was kind of eerie. But welcome into episode 91 of Sneakers and Cleats. It is April 11th, 2024, as we're recording this a little after 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It is Masters Weekend, y'all. Happy Masters Weekend to all the golf fans out there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Chuck and I were both just watching the reverence of Augusta National by the broadcasters who were getting a little verklempt, talking about what an honor it is to be on these hallowed grounds.
Yes.
Get the golf
Normally, we
whispers
don't have
ready.
the broadcast voices, but talking in a whisper as if we're in mass on a Sunday morning.
Nobody has a better golf whisperer than Jim Nance. He's getting his pipes ready for this weekend, getting some time off from the Final Four and everything. A lot to get to, so let's dive right into it. Of course, we start off, as always, with the number game, 91. The one that, not too many 91s, but the one that jumps out to me, and I think a lot of people now, especially with The Last Dance coming out the past couple of years, Dennis Rodman, 91. Of course, he spent some
that's a good
time
one.
here
Oh,
in
yes, he
San
did.
Antonio. I think y'all have mentioned some Dennis Rodman stories before, but
We don't
we don't want to
yeah.
delve into that.
I think we have mentioned them on this show before, and surprisingly, we were able to get through those stories without being pulled off of YouTube.
Yeah, Dennis Rodman was an adventure. I just remember him as number 10, but I guess with the Bulls he was 91. You got Kevin Green on your list, the late great Kevin Green,
Mhm.
and I got a Kevin Green story. We were in the airport in Panama City Beach, Florida, waiting in the gate for a plane when my kids were fairly young. Could not have been nicer to the kids.
Always nice to hear.
Yeah, great guy.
Big Pittsburgh linebacker and obviously NFL Hall of Famer. So
Yeah.
we also threw in a Cowboy, not a special teamer, but LB Ladouceur. Hopefully, I don't think I'm pronouncing that correctly, but the Canadian long snapper,
Yeah.
longtime Canadian long snapper for the Cowboys. Just
Yeah.
I think got out of the game not too long ago, a couple years ago maybe.
Big dude. And a teammate with Aaron Rodgers at Cal.
How about that?
How
Did
about
not
that?
know that.
So there you go for all the trivia buffs out there.
Yeah, right.
A lot happening today, obviously. Of course, earlier this morning, the passing of O.J. Simpson and everything that he has with his sports career, and of course, pop culture and everything else that goes along with that. And then, of course, college basketball news. Scott Drew still hanging out in the Lone Star State.
Man, that says a lot about his job at Baylor because the way the tea leaves were breaking, it looked like he wanted the job. And maybe he was trying to convince the missus. And she got on a plane yesterday, a private jet, flew to Lexington. They apparently gave her the grand tour of the campus and the town and everything. They flew back. Everybody took that as a sign as he really wants it. And he's just trying to convince the missus. And then they announced this morning that he's going to stay in Waco, which means happy wife, happy life. You think
Yep.
Mrs. Drew got her wish.
Yeah.
And they're just finding, and the kids, when your kids are established in school and stuff, it's hard to move. But I think, that's a dream job if you're a hoopster. And $8 million a year, potentially $6 million a year in NIL money, all the resources, but it just says a lot about Scott Drew, his love of Waco, and vice versa.
And winning it all a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a pretty good there in
Right.
Waco and a good
He
program.
does. Yep, he does.
So some other notable things that happened in the year of 1991, the Giants beat the Bills in Super Bowl 25, maybe known for its national anthem of Whitney Houston, probably the best ever, right?
One or 1A with Marvin Gaye, the '83 NBA All-Star.
Also happening in 91 quickly, Duke beating Kansas for the men's basketball championship. We'll dive into that a little bit. Ian Woosnam won the Masters, his only major title of his career, and then the Twins beat the Braves in the World Series.
And Julie Knight said, "I do," and became the wife of Mrs. Don Harris.
Nice.
How about that?
Yeah, got married in '91.
So what anniversary coming up, or has it
Yeah,
already
whatever
been
that
passed?
is. No, it's
It'll be what? So
May will be
34?
33, 34?
Yeah.
33 in May.
Well, congratulations. And so big things happening in 91. We're diving right into
Were
this.
you already married in '91?
I was.
When did you get married? '90?
89.
89.
Yeah, we just had 35. One of the reasons why I went to Germany, too.
35, and it feels 35 minutes.
Underwater. It wasn't my line, it's just, it's a line my wife repeats often. Yes.
So moving here now over to the Spurs, of course, 2 games left on the schedule, season winding down. Of course, last night they got trounced by the Oklahoma City Thunder. Wasn't really a game, of course. Spurs have been snake bitten by injuries here lately, but kind of a big week for them. They got to a significant win total of 20, tying the worst win total in franchise history. Coach Pop talked about the decision to sit out Wemby here against Oklahoma City last night, and that's obviously maybe going to factor into the next couple of games here. But Luis, if we can, here was Coach Pop before the game last night explaining his decision to sit Wemby. Oh, you don't have it? I'm sorry, excuse me. Well, we're going to move on from that then because, again, just like previously, sitting out in back-to-backs, being cautious with him, especially with all the team's injuries here lately, makes perfect sense. Just curious, I mean, it's pretty safe to say he would play against Denver and Detroit, you would think?
I don't know, it's hard to know because on the surface, yes. Just because it's the last 2 home games and all that. But again, I mean, at this point in the season, when literally what is there left to play for, you already talked about the other injuries with some of these other guys that they're having to deal with. So, I mean, we'll see how they decide to pair it, but I honestly don't know the value of him playing 2 extra games at this point, other than if you're a paying customer, obviously that's who you're going to see play.
Yeah, I think he plays Sunday against Detroit. It's Fan Appreciation Day. That's the last game.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be a lot of giveaways and stuff, and those fans are going to want to see Wemby in the last game of the year. I don't know about the one against Denver. He wants to play. He's ready to go. If it's a playoff game or something, he's more than healthy enough to play. But, you know, Pop was right. It's you know, if something were to happen to him, you would never forgive yourself.
Yeah, you gotta look in the mirror and answer why the heck did we go forward with that decision.
The Spurs played last night. Chuck and I were watching the game.
Mm-hmm.
We were probably the only two when they were down by 50.
That's fair.
But one of the first times in my life I've looked up and did not know who those players were.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a guy they had David Duke, not that David Duke, on the court. And
41.
What do you mean 41?
41 was the guy that was out there too last night. I'm like, who's 41?
Oh, Raekwon Gray.
Yeah, and he looked actually pretty good.
He pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, looked like he was not afraid of the moment. I'll say that. Came in firing right off the bench.
How about this? I mean, it seems like Wemby pretty much had locked up Rookie of the Year weeks and maybe even months ago. Last night, them playing Oklahoma City and Wemby not being in the lineup, did it maybe even prove Wemby's case of, hey, here's his defensive impact? You know, not saying that the Spurs would have won the game with him in the lineup, but just keeping OKC in a little bit more check. Do you think maybe that kind of strengthens Wemby's case of Defensive Player of the Year?
He's not going to win Defensive Player of the Year. It's going to go to Rudy Gobert. You can make the argument that he should with his block steals and blocks. When you go and look at the block stats in this league, and you see that second place is 2.4, and third place is 2.4, and fourth place is 2.3, and fifth and sixth and seventh, and he is a full block at 3.6 ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
And then stocks, steals and blocks combined, it's one of the greatest seasons in NBA history. And then the other night, he gets his 100 and 252nd block, which makes it 1,000 points. He's got almost 1,500. He's 12 points short of 1,500. That's another reason I think he plays. He wants 12 more points. 1,500 points, 250 blocks, 250 assists. The only guys who have ever done that are Kareem, David Robinson, and Hakeem Olajuwon, and those guys are all MVPs of the league. And he's doing it as a rookie. It's just phenomenal. I do think he deserves to be on the All-NBA team, one of the first 3 teams. Again, I don't think he gets there because he's a rookie on a bad team. I do think he makes all defense. I think he should be first team all defense. And I think he gets second place in rookie and defensive player of the year to Rudy Gobert and runs away, maybe unanimous in rookie of the year.
And maybe it doesn't happen this year, but it would be a small footnote because I'm, just looking down the road in the future of his career, it's like he's going to have 5 or 6 of these, if not more, these accolades.
Oh, more. Yeah. He'll be an all-NBA player for the next 10 years if he stays healthy. But, only Tim Duncan was first team all-NBA as a rookie, not even LeBron. So I don't think he'll be first team all-NBA.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to, I don't really know how I end up on which side of the equation of this. Just because they're 27th as a team in defense, that's terrible. I mean, we'd be rolling over in our graves if we ever thought that this team would have fallen that far off of the defensive spectrum. However, there's a stat called PIE, P-I-E, not 3.14, but it has to do with performance. And it basically takes all the stats, over 20 of them, puts them in a colander, spit out the number. So if you'd have thought who the top 2 guys in the league are in that stat, P-I-E, who would you?
Luka and Jokic.
Okay, so you're right. Jokic is 1, Giannis is 2, LeBron is 7th, and Victor is 8th. So if you're doing the math, that to me is hard to not give some credence to when just with your eye test, if you were going to say, who are the guys that you would say the stat stuffers, the guys that you really break the numbers down, and at the end you're going to vote for MVP. Well, the top 2 guys, those would probably be at least 2 of the 3 guys that you would have up there. And the fact that Wemby's a top 10 guy as a 19-year-old who's still growing both emotionally, physically, spiritually, all those things. Oh man, it's unbelievable.
He's taken such a huge step from the beginning of the year. I mean, he's gone from a guy who was he has a lot of natural God-gifted ability and length and size and all that, to he's one of the best players in the league. That went way forward in just 6 months.
Yeah.
And that shows you what's between the years of that guy.
He's learning the spacing and the relationship of it all, just offensively and defensively. So, 82 games, you just imagine compounding that, as more seasons come. The future is certainly very bright.
Yeah.
So,
and a guy that is learning to play some with his back to the basket and will shoot the occasional transition 3.
Right. So 2 games left, Denver tomorrow night, and of course Detroit on Sunday to close out the season. Do you guys think, just real quick, yes or no, they get one more season to avoid that franchise worst season mark?
Oh, one more win?
Uh-huh.
They're tied for it. Yeah, they beat Detroit Sunday.
Beat Detroit and avoided. So it sounds like we're all in agreement on that. Moving on quickly to the Final Four. We didn't get a chance to talk about it earlier in the week, but we were all there watching the women's championship game, South Carolina and Iowa. Fantastic first half. And, of course, the men on Monday night, UConn going back-to-back. Just real quickly, your thoughts on the state of college basketball. Of course, the women's game outdrawing the men's game. Both viewership was up, obviously, for both games. But is it sustainable for the women's game just with all those stars leaving for the WNBA?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Zach. I'm not really sure. All I know is that the WNBA is sure getting a bump. I mean, we were talking about this morning, that CBS has now come to the table with dollars and more visibility for the WNBA game. And the fact that Las Vegas, when they play Indiana, and Indiana has the #1 pick. So before Caitlin Clark even gets to the WNBA, they've already made a venue change, expecting a huge crowd for when Caitlin Clark comes to Vegas. So, I mean, the effect is real with what she was able to do, obviously, in the college game. Now, will the college game get that bump from all those eyes that were on the game? And I'm sure there's going to be somebody that you would assume carry the torch for the women's game going forward. But now, will Caitlin Clark's leap to the pros, will it have the same effect, or was it a regional thing at Iowa because they're so good, and then everybody sees how good she is there, and then exponentially how that audience grew? Will the audiences kind of recapture that same magic that she was able to capture this year?
It'll be hard. It'll be hard. I don't think she's a flash in the pan by any means. I think she'll continue to have those fans go with her to the WNBA. College basketball is in good shape. Paige Beckers at UConn is one of the up-and-coming stars, and she's coming back. I just think it's interesting. It goes to show you that what men's college basketball could be if guys stayed 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Because the reason we got to know Caitlin Clark and she built that following was because she was in the Final Four, that she came back and all that kind of stuff. And it reminded me of, when Dream was at Houston for 4 years, or Patrick Ewing was at Georgetown for 4 years, or, even Michael at North Carolina for 3 years. College basketball was a big deal. I really enjoyed this year's tournament on the men's side, but you don't have the players. The stars of the men's game are the coaches. Everybody knows Dan Hurley and everybody knows the coaches, but Stephon Castle's going to be a top 6, 7 pick. He's a freshman at UConn, so we don't even get to know him.
Yeah.
And so
players keep changing so much.
Right.
The players change so much, and now with the portal, they change teams.
Right. It's just like minor league baseball every year. It takes you, a few weeks to figure out who's even on your team, and then by the time you figure it out, they're gone someplace else. So it's hard to, keep everybody's interest in it day to day, like it used to be a lot easier, obviously.
Right. Impressive runs though by South Carolina and UConn. I mean, UConn going back to back. That's
they're very good.
Dynasty, and Dan Hurley's got something
He
really
should be the
special
star.
going there. Yeah.
He should be the star because their sets and the stuff they ran, and as well coached as they were and as hard as they play, it was really fun to watch.
Yeah, and they leaned on the portal a lot, so to be able to turn that into what they were able to turn it into as quickly as they did, it's pretty amazing.
And as much attention as Caitlin Clark gets, Dawn Staley has something really awesome at South Carolina.
She's special.
The only loss coming to Clark's Iowa team back in the Final Four of last year. So yeah, they've got a juggernaut down there at South Carolina.
Yeah, 3 out of the last 4 in an undefeated season.
Mm-hmm.
Athletes everywhere. Yeah, I mean, to be able to run the table in this day and age and anything, come on, man.
Yeah.
And Cardoso, I mean, as much as Clark got credit for women's basketball, Cardoso, I thought, she was the best player on the floor in the championship game.
And she's headed to the WNBA too.
Yeah.
It looks like so.
Probably
Again, that's where
big.
all these stars that we got to know this year in the women's game, they're now headed to the NBA. So who is that next college star for the women's side? But Paige Beckers, obviously, that's a good one to start with and build.
Hey, how about our 2 players from here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to be a bit surprised if Robertson and the Forestier kid go out and start lighting it up early.
And Forstier's going to join probably the best player in the game, Juju Watkins at USC.
Some teams to watch, certainly, for next February and March as we roll around to that. And
in San Antonio, baby!
That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We're counting down the days for that already. And one of the big annual rites of spring, of course, happening right now, play getting underway at the Masters out in Augusta, Georgia. This is always such a fun weekend for golf. A lot of talk is centered around it. A lot of talk about the state of the game, changes in rules. Do rules get rolled back? Does the ball get changed and rolled back? Luis, we're going to get ready to queue up that second one from Brooks Koepka here. Of course, a lot of talk was about scoring and what these players are doing now off the tee and the distances that they have. Majors are always tough, and Brooks knows a thing or two about playing major golf.
Yeah, he does.
Nobody scored lower than 62 in a major, right? Or no, 63 I think is the low mark, right? In a major.
Johnny Miller.
Mm-hmm. So
1973, I believe.
And Augusta, one of the tougher courses to play, just with all the changes that happen year to year. Somebody asked Brooks, just if somebody could go much lower than that, and here's was Brooks's response. So a good sassy Brooks Koepka
Yeah.
is always good for the Masters. 59, yeah, probably not attainable at Augusta National. But who's your pick for the Masters this year?
I mean, I'll just take the easy one and say Scheffler just because he's been dominating.
Right.
Could have won 3 tournaments in a row coming
Yeah.
in, missed one putt.
He's a strong pick.
Although, his putter is not the strongest club in his bag. I've been high on Victor Hovland for a few weeks, even though he's been struggling. Wyndham Clark is another good pick, I think, this week. The kid who played at San Antonio, Akshay Bhatia, is red hot. But I like Scheffler just because he's the best player in the game and he's playing really well.
I'm going to go with Spieth. I don't know why. It just feels like his confidence, even coming here to San Antonio, and he says that I really like where my game is at, and the scoring necessarily hasn't been what you would think it'd be given how well he's playing. But I don't know, man. He's had top 4 finishes out of his 10 starts there. I mean, something tells me we're going to see the very best of that guy this weekend.
Yeah, he said that when he was playing here last weekend that he was driving the ball really well. It's just it hasn't translated to scoring. And he took an adventure on Saturday, right. On 18. Don, you were there that day. I mean, so from a pretty frustrated end on Saturday to feeling. Of course, everybody feels good about their game, before they tee it up at Augusta. But should be a fun watch this weekend. Looking forward to that. And then on the note of BTO, what a finish on Sunday.
Oh, great. My mom, who's 87 years old and does not watch golf, texted me and said, what an exciting golf match. She was watching on NBC and just because it was in San Antonio. And it was thrilling.
I just can't believe that a guy can get that hot. And then you're looking back at what he was able to do. Was it 7 birdies in a row, I think? Was it more his putter or was it more of it? I mean, he was just giving himself more makeable attempts because of how good he was coming in at the green. I mean, yeah, that was unbelievable. He went from thinking, ho-hum, just get this thing over with, highlights already cut, to birdie, 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 game on. And then for Akshay to be able to hit that bomb on 18 as well to force OT. I mean, yeah, that was, one of those things where I thought the whole tournament is setting up for us, right? All the big names are doing pretty well. Rory's playing great, Spieth's playing great. And then at the end, it's just 2 guys that almost lapped the field. And they put on one hell of a show there towards the end, no question.
Speaking of lapping the field.
Yeah, that sets us up for Miss Elizabeth Leachman. WOW is really, where it starts.
Yeah.
Because just a sophomore distance runner from Bernie Champion. Dawn, you've got a little bit more on her background and just how she started in running.
Well, the way that I say it to people is, Chuck and I have been doing this a long time in San Antonio. I covered Shaq in high school in San Antonio. We covered Priest Holmes, Wayne McGarry, Jordan Clarkson, who's stud. Of all the greats to come out of San Antonio High School, did any of them do what she's done already at 16? She's the national record holder in the 2 and 3 mile runs in this country. And they've been running those races a long, long time. And then she gets invited to go run with the college girls at the Texas Relay in a field of 22 grown women. She wins by 35 seconds and sets not only a national high school record, but the meet record at the Texas Relays. That's like one of the most prestigious track meets in the world, year after year after year. And it's the Myers Stadium record. And, track and field's a big deal at Texas with, the Olympians that they've had and all that, and all those different races. So to do this as a high school sophomore is just remarkable. Now, will she keep it up? Once her body starts to change, will she continue to love running the way she did? You asked the question of how she got started. She got started because she was in middle school, and her parents basically said, you can't stay in the house during COVID. You can't just sit here all day in the house after you finish your homework. Go do something. And she went out and started running, and she fell in love with it, and her pace is just incredible. And you were out there shooting it, Zach. I mean, to see the way she runs compared to the other girls, her classification, her age group, even in all of Texas high school, it's just like she's running past people who are walking.
Yeah. I mean, having shot the past couple track meets, the district and area, I mean, it's the first lap and it's not even, halfway through 200 meters. She finds a way to the front of the pack and then she finds a gear and she just goes. It's really impressive.
You have her and Nunez going to state again,
Yeah,
more than likely.
yeah.
I mean, jeepers. I mean, what a good time to be around here covering sports.
And it's, so y'all have talked about just all the greats in over the decades that y'all have been here covering high school sports, seeing nothing like it. Well, for the coaches who are seeing her every day, it's something new that they haven't seen either. Here's a little bit more insight from Coach Kevin Brown and Elizabeth Leishman herself.
Yeah, she's got a lot of good people around her. Jimmy Brewer is her personal coach. Kevin Brown there is the track coach at Bernie. The distance coach is a long experienced guy. Her parents are fantastic people. Got her very much grounded. Of course, she's just a sophomore in high school. She has no idea how good she is. She has no idea how good she is. She's a completely humble 4.0 student. Just wants to be a part of the team. She's had offers already for NIL, for Nike. These are the shoe companies come in with people like this and say, leave Bernie, come to IMG, come to these other places, be a Nike runner, we'll sponsor you. She just wants to hang out with her kids at Bernie Champion, her girlfriends that are on the track team with her, that she doesn't have her driver's license yet. So she's just a great kid. And right now, that's my concern for her is that all this attention, changes, who she is. I hope she just continues to do what she's doing and just loves to run because she's going to get a lot of pressure.
Yeah, why drive when you can run?
And
here's
there pretty quickly.
Here's the crazy thing, based on that 5,000 time that she ran in New York that set the national record, she qualified with that time for the Olympic trials at Eugene. And there's a good chance that she gets invited. Can you imagine being invited to the Olympic trials at 16? Now, she's not going to be one of the top 3 people to make the team for the 5,000 in the Paris Games this summer, but she's definitely on the radar for 2028 and 2032.
It's incredible to see her get this kind of attention already. And after her 1600 race, we're just kind of judging off body language here, but just she's competing with herself. You made that comment of, it looked like she wasn't too pleased with her time. There was had to have been a 30-mile headwind on the far side of the track, but yet she's still running a sub 5-minute mile. It's just incredible.
Yeah, Jack Green tells the story last year where like her brain is like more powerful than her body.
Mm-hmm.
She was so far ahead of everybody and her body just collapsed. Like her body
Pushing
was
it so hard.
That was it.
Mm-hmm.
And she was able to bounce back from that and then go win another race a little bit later. But that just goes to show you that her brain is way in control of the situation here. It's not just her training her body. Her brain must be really
that video
else
is disturbing to watch because she doesn't even know she's going to collapse. She's just running and her body just gives out on her and she falls on her face. That was in the 32, so she didn't qualify for state, and that's her best race in high school. She goes out and comes back to win the 16, and then she wins state as a freshman in the 16, and she says that's not my race.
Must be nice.
Well, certainly an athlete to keep an eye on here over the next couple of years, and regional meet is coming up here at Hero Stadium next week. So if you're looking to see something incredible, be sure to maybe swing on by there. I'm sure we'll be covering her next step on her journey as she looks to make a return trip to state. Well on her way already, so something to look forward to there. That's about going to wrap it up, I think, for this edition. Chuck, Don, any parting thoughts here as we head out for the weekend and get ready to watch some more golf wall to wall?
We bring some hot chocolate.
Yeah, we need to warm up in here. It's nice and chilly once again. I see the needle hovering just around 60 degrees
maybe
here.
a little
So
warmer than last time.
I'll plug a Sports Sunday this week. Join Manu Ginobili on Sports Sunday to see what his new favorite sport is. I will bet you've never heard of it.
There's a tease for you for next Sunday. So that's going to wrap it up for episode 91 of Sneakers and Cleats. Thanks so much for joining us. You can download it wherever you get your podcast from. Be sure to like and subscribe on the website. Be sure to check it out. And then we will catch you next week for the next episode. Everybody have a great weekend.
For the Reggie White episode. 92.
92.